If you don't know where to start with Lithuania's NIS2 cybersecurity law, then this video is for you. So I'll show you the most relevant cybersecurity laws and regulations that are published in Lithuania, and I'll also show you what are the key points from these laws and regulations that are relevant for companies that have to comply with these laws and regulations, and I'll also show you how to write documents to comply with these laws and regulations. So after you watch this video, you'll have a clear idea on what the requirements are and what steps you need to take to comply with them. Okay, let's start with the structure. As part of this NIS2 transposition, Lithuania has published a law on cybersecurity and also a description on cybersecurity requirements, and both of these documents were published back in 2024. There are some other documents, but let's say these two are the most important for companies that need to comply with NIS2. And basically the difference is that this law is more a top-level document which describes how this national cybersecurity strategy needs to be written, how this national cybersecurity authority operates, how is the oversight being performed, also which companies need to comply. But this law doesn't really describe cybersecurity measures in more detail. They're very general. And this is where this second document, the description of cybersecurity requirements, comes into play. Basically, this is the implementing regulation, and there are many detailed requirements for cybersecurity. And I'll show you these details in a minute in this video. Now, it is also important to mention here that there is this Commission Implementing Regulation, or CIR 2024-2690, that was published by the European Commission, and that is valid in all European countries, including Lithuania. Now, this CIR actually focuses on digital infrastructure companies and also digital service providers. So out of these 18 sectors that are mentioned in the NIS2 and also in Lithuania's NIS2 law, this CIR applies only to 3 of these 18 sectors. In effect, if your company belongs to these 3 sectors and you're based in Lithuania, then you'll have to be compliant with both NIS2 law and this implementing regulation, but also with CIR. Whereas if your company belongs to any of these 15 sectors that are not covered by CIR, then you have to comply only with Lithuania's NIS2 law and implementing regulation. But in all this complication, a good thing is that this description of cybersecurity requirements from Lithuania is very similar to this CIR, and if you want to learn about this CIR, you will see my other video which describes it into more detail. Okay, let me now show you a couple of key points from these Lithuanian documents that are relevant for companies that need to go for NIS2 compliance. Here on the left-hand side you can see the Lithuanian NIS2 law in its original document, and on the right-hand side you can actually see the English translation. This one was translated by AI, so it might not be completely accurate, but in any way it's pretty good, I would say. And you know, as you scroll down you can see that there are lots of things specified here, but let's stick to some most important ones. So let's see about the jurisdiction and basically which kind of companies have to comply. So if you follow this text here, you will see that it really follows exactly what is written also in NIS2. So if you know already what NIS2 specifies, then you'll see that this Lithuania actually follows exactly what NIS2 is requiring. And also towards the end of this document you will see the specification of exactly the sectors that need to comply with this NIS2 law. Okay, let's go for this cybersecurity management. So as you can see here, the law specifies what kind of implementation needs to be done for cybersecurity, and especially this paragraph 5. So when you scroll down, you will see that there are many things specified here on what exactly needs to be written, which kind of documents and which kind of safeguards need to be implemented for cybersecurity. Again, this is only a high level. You will see later on in this other document that it's specified in more detail, but this really follows a NIS2 directive and what is specified there. When we scroll down, you will see that also in this paragraph 7, it basically specifies the obligation of training, NIS2 training. And by the way, I have a separate video where I explain how to organize NIS2 training, so you can take a look at this video. And paragraph 8 specifies this need for security audit. Okay, let's move on to some next thing that is interesting, and this is about the persons that need to be nominated for cybersecurity, and then several requirements requirements there, and also definitions of how to deal with cybersecurity incident and incident reporting. As you can see here, there are definitions of early warning, cyber incident report, interim report, final report, these kind of things. Let's see the penalties. Penalties are basically the same as specified in NIS2 directive. So as you can see, it's up to 10 million euros or 2% of legal entities' annual worldwide turnover. And this is for essential entities, and for important ones, it's 7 million and up to 1.4%. Now, what is interesting here is that actually the law specifies the possibility that the National Cybersecurity Center actually orders suspension of activities if this entity does not comply with certain things. So it's a pretty interesting one, pretty strong requirement. And also related to this is suspension of managers. So basically, National Cybersecurity Center can also require that the CEO of the company or someone else actually is replaced, at least temporarily, in certain cases. So a very interesting requirement. Then there's also something specific about the usage of secure public networks, especially for government agencies and institutions. So basically there is this specific way of using these public networks. And finally, at the end of the document, you will see a list of all the sectors that need to comply. So I'll browse through it, but basically what you can see is exactly the same as in NIS2 directive. It covers in total 18 sectors. Okay, now here you can see this implementing regulation, the original on the left hand side and automatic translation on the right hand side. It's interesting here actually that it refers to ISO 27002, which is basically a substandard of ISO 27001, and this 27002 specifies the implementation of particular controls. So obviously Lithuania is heavily reliant on these ISO standards here. Anyway, you'll see lots of requirements here, and I'm not going to go into detail of each and every one of these. Of course, you can download these documents yourself and take a look, but let me just give you an overview. So first you have this network and information system security policy. So these are the requirements for the top level policy, then how the risk assessment needs to be performed. Then the next one is about defining these responsibilities for the head of cybersecurity, or let's say CISO, Chief Information Security Officer, and then how you handle these cyber incidents. And then here you will see in a couple of places this kind of a table which specifies which of these requirements are required for essential and which are required for important entities. So there is a difference because in some cases this is required only for essential but not for important entities. Okay, let's see further. Then you have business continuity of operations. Then let's see the next one. This one is about supply chain and how to handle suppliers. Then here the acquisition, development and maintenance of information systems. And again this table. Let me browse through this further. Then there is this section about the assessing the effectiveness of cybersecurity requirements, cyber hygiene and cybersecurity training, cryptography and encryption, human resources security, physical access policy, asset management, access control, multi-factor authentication, and basically these are the final provisions here. Okay, I'll show you now a couple of documents that you can write to comply with this NIS2 law and this implementing regulation, but also how you can actually reduce the effort for compliance. Okay, here you can see this risk assessment methodology from Advisera's NIS2 documentation toolkit. This is the Lithuanian version and exactly the same version in English. And let me show you how these documents are structured. So here you have the table of contents. So as you can see, basically all the relevant aspects of risk assessment and treatment are covered here. And when you scroll down to these reference documents, you will see that there are several references here to the cybersecurity law, but also to this regulation, of course, to CIR and 27001 standard. What doesn't say here, it's also we referred here to ISO 27005. So let me just show you briefly how the documents are written. So as you can see here, you have these sections around mandatory measures, the principles, and then the process for assessment, threats, vulnerabilities, all kinds of things, and then the scales, and the same thing in English. So basically the best way really to write these documents is to take ISO standards like ISO 27001, in this case also 27005 because it's about risk management, and then basically to go through all the requirements from the law, from this regulation, from CIR, and basically map those requirements and see if you covered everything. So usually this is the best way really to write documents and then adapt them to the regulation, and then of course to your specific needs. And of course, to speed up the whole process, you can use templates like these from our NIS2 toolkit, and you can actually see another video where I display how to use this toolkit. Let's take a look also at this information classification policy. So as you can see, this first page is basically the same in any document. You should use the same format, and then of course this table of contents. So as you can see here, you also have these sections. Again, this is coming out primarily from ISO 27001, and then again you adapt these things for NIS2 law and implementing regulation. So let's see a little bit the references here. So as you can see, NIS2 law, NIS2 directive, this CIR, also this implementing regulation, and you can see here several references to several controls from Annex A. And then you basically define steps and responsibilities, and then classification criteria and also classification levels. So basically this is how you then starting to develop this document further. Okay, I hope this was helpful, and let me know in the comments below if you have any questions about compliance with these NIS2 cybersecurity legislation in Lithuania, and I'll answer as soon as I can. And to access this NIS2 documentation toolkit in Lithuanian, click the link in the description below this video, and you'll be able to sign up for a free demo of this toolkit, and you'll also be able to download the free demo of these documents. And you can also see my next video, which explains how to use this NIS2 documentation toolkit. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and you can also subscribe to my YouTube channel not to miss any of my new videos, and I publish videos about cybersecurity, governance and compliance every week. Thanks for watching.